Welcome to Your College Bound Kid,
a podcast for parents, college counselors, students, and anyone who wants a deep dive into the world of college admissions.
I'm Hilary Dickman, a parent of two and Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Colorado College.
I'm Mark Stucker, and I'm the founder and producer. Our mission is to make college knowledge available to all. We care deeply about your kid. We believe college is a match to be made and not a prize to be won. We believe in being genuine and transparent. We are committed to covering a variety of topics, including the tough subjects. Thanks to your generosity, we're committed to providing a minimum of 10 hours of fresh, commercial-free content every month, with episodes every Monday and Thursday. We have a variety of co-hosts because we believe and value diverse perspectives. You're our listening family, and we get great joy every time we meet with you, as we do our best to give you tools so your students can soar and reach their limitless potential. This week in the news, Hillary joins me to answer the question, how should I tell a college I have decided I will not be accepting their admission offer? Who do I tell, and when do I tell them that I will not be enrolling? Part 3 of 3, my interview with Elliot Felix on his book, The Connected College. And it's part 3 of 3 of our look at the University of Pennsylvania, aka UPenn, through the prism of two students, Daniela from suburban Philly and Summer from Chicago, Illinois.
And now it's time for a question from one of our listeners.
Good morning, Hillary.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. I'm getting ready to go to Florida, and I'm excited about it. Even though the weather's great here now, it wasn't, you never know, it could change. I know it's going to be really great in South Florida.
Yeah, beautiful. That'll be fun.
Yeah, so I have a question. I get asked it a lot, and I wanted to ask you, and that is, what should I do when I know I'm not going to a college? What should my communication be? And when and what? And sometimes people are like, do I talk to the territory manager? Sometimes they don't know anything about portals. Let me just throw it out there and let you answer it. And then sometimes they ask, is it different if I kind of feel like I've established a little bit of a relationship with someone versus if I don't? So anyway, take it where you want to go.
Yeah, I think those are all great questions. My first advice is go to your portal. Because in your applicant portal from that college, there should be a link that you can click on that will go to a form where you say whether you're enrolling or not enrolling. And that's the easiest, fastest, most direct way. It's the simplest for the colleges. It requires no human intervention, and it will get you withdrawn or get your application, let them know immediately that that you're not coming. So that would be my number one recommendation. If you don't have a portal, can't find your portal, can't find your login credentials, don't want to deal with figuring that out, then the next best option would be to email the college, like the general admission email address at Colorado College. It's admission@coloradocollege.edu. Every school will have one of those, and email them, preferably from the email address to which you're receiving communications. Like if you have, lots of kids have multiple email addresses, try to use the one where you get emails from that college and tell them your name and perhaps your high school and say, thank you so much for the offer of admission. I have chosen to go somewhere else. It's super helpful for them if you want to tell them where you're going. You can also say why you're going, but you don't have to. But those are typically in the form that you would fill out to turn down an offer of admission. So it can be helpful for whoever's on the other end to be able to fill out that form for you. And they may, I know that our data processors will email you back. If you don't say, I'm going to Bates College, they'll email you back and ask you where you're going instead of CC, because that's just helpful information for us to have. So those are my two suggestions. If you have a personal relationship with the territory rep, I don't think it hurts to send them an email. I always love to know where students who I've gotten to know through the process are going to go. And I don't get any kind of like heads up when they submit the form that says that they're turning down our offer of admission. So it's lovely when a student emails me and says, "Hey, Hilary, it's been so great to get to know you and Colorado College through this process. I really appreciate the work that you've done to help me understand CC. I just want you to know that I got an offer from Bates, and that's the top of my list. And so I'm going to be going to Bates, but I've really enjoyed getting to know you and Colorado College." That's always lovely. I really like to sort of tie up a relationship with a student that way, but it's certainly not required of you. What I would say is don't make emailing your territory rep your sort of number one way that you're going to turn down an offer of admission, because it's a busy time of year and you're putting extra work on the territory rep then to go into Slate and turn down the offer of admission for you. You can do that work yourself. You don't need to ask the territory rep to do it for you.
No, all really helpful. Back in the day, I used to be over our refusal surveys when I did this at boarding school admissions, and I can't stress how it's really helpful if you say where you're going and if you say why. And a lot of times students don't want to be completely honest because they don't want to hurt your feelings and they think it's not being kind. And they need to realize like you are actually helping the most, because what admissions is going to do is they're going to take a look at all of those reasons, and then they're going to say which ones are just who we are and it just wasn't a fit. Like if they say, "I didn't like your location," or "you're too small," or something like that, it kind of is what it is. Or "I didn't like your campus," or something. But then if they say something like, "I had a bad tour guide experience," or "we ate in the dining room and the food wasn't great," like those are the kinds of things that you tabulate. And if you start seeing those things over and over again, admissions is going to be having conversations with food services. And so, back in the day, we used to do these electronically, but I used to also make some phone calls too. And there would be people that would say, nothing. And I would say, "No, honestly, just please, you're not hurting my feelings." I'm like, "All right," And then they would say something like, "I didn't like how kids are dressed," or something. And I'm like, "Oh, this is all helpful." And so I just wanted to really emphasize that don't think you're hurting people's feelings. If you're really transparent about why you're not coming, you're actually helping the school the most.
Yeah. And like we've heard almost all the things, right? From snarky responses to really thoughtful responses. Mm-hmm. So like you're not going to hurt our feelings, and it is helpful to know kind of what has drawn students away from our college to another place.
This is just a little bit off our topic here, but I know, you mentioned Bates in your example. So what are sort of your big CC overlaps? Like I know.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Bates because I just lost a student to Bates. Sure. But yeah, Bates, Middlebury, Bowdoin, those are Dartmouth. Colby, yes. Sometimes we lose kids to Colby. Of the women's colleges, I would say Smith is our biggest overlap, which is really interesting because the women's colleges are all so different, and that's the only one that we really have significant overlap with.
And what about on the West? What about on the West?
It's interesting. There are a couple that sort of don't seem like they make sense. And one of them I would say is USC, University of Southern California. We lose students to SC pretty regularly.
Yeah, that's a surprising one to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a theory on that?
Like, no, I don't know why. I mean, other than like 17-year-olds are 17-year-olds. And two things can be true at the same time, right? Like you can know exactly what you want to major in and want to be in a big school with a lot of school spirit and want a pre-professional kind of experience, and also see that you could benefit from a liberal arts experience in a smaller city that doesn't have like a marching band and, the kind of big, well, I was going to say Pac-10 atmosphere, which I guess it doesn't exist anymore. But
no, and the Big Ten, give us our respect.
Yeah. I know. Ugh. I just miss the days of Pac-10 football games. They were so fun. Life was so simple in the 80s. So I don't know. I think that students contain multitudes, right? And they can be interested in lots of different things. Last year, interestingly, I saw a lot of students turning us down for Georgetown, which is like really a wild pairing. But
for me, almost all your overlap is with small liberal arts.
Yeah, usually
it might be like
the
Claremont colleges, or
We see, a little bit with Pitzer, I would say. Interestingly,
Mhm.
I don't see as much overlap. Sometimes Pomona, I don't see
Mhm.
as much overlap with the Claremonts as I do with the New England
Mhm.
schools, but there is definitely some
What
there.
about like the open curriculum? Do you find people feel block is
Mm.
somewhat analogous, and so they're looking at like, no,
Yeah,
you're Wesleyan. Well, Smith has open, semi-open.
yeah, yeah. It's
Hamilton,
interesting,
Wesleyan,
actually.
schools like that, you know?
Yeah, we have been told a couple times in the last
Mm-hmm.
few months by our advisors here at
Mm-hmm.
CC to quote, stop telling students that we don't have any general ed requirements, which
Mm-hmm.
none of us have ever said to students.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that students do sort of make the assumption that we have an open curriculum because of the block plan. Those two things
Mm-hmm.
are completely unrelated. We do not
Mm-hmm.
have an open curriculum. We do have
Right.
general ed requirements.
Yeah.
And I think most students know that coming in, but
Mm-hmm.
some we're not getting the message across to, or
Mm-hmm.
they're sort of lumping us in with the Browns. We actually have a
Sure.
decent amount of overlap with Brown, Smith, those kinds of places that give you a little bit more freedom.
And what about like Whitman? Because like I still think
Yeah,
of
I
it as being
think,
pretty outdoorsy, and like Whitman
mhm.
is very outdoorsy.
Yeah, I think we do have a lot of overlap with Mittman,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think we see it as much. I think the
Mm-hmm.
pecking order sort of goes Middlebury, CC, Whitman. And so
Mm-hmm.
Middlebury probably doesn't know that we feel like they're a big
Sure.
competitor for us because students
Sure.
aren't turning Middlebury down to go to
Right.
CC,
Right.
just like students aren't turning CC down to go to Whitman. Very
Right.
often they do
Sure. Sure.
occasionally. Whitman offers much better merit aid than we do. So when that comes into play, then students will often choose Whitman instead. But it's not one that when you're going through
Yeah.
the forms that you see very often.
You're bringing an interesting point up, which our listeners may not know, which is you're likely to know where you lose
Yes.
a lot more than where you're winning. And,
Yes.
and that's the point you're bringing up. So you
Yeah.
feel maybe losses to Georgetown and USC or Brown,
Yep.
they're more prominent where you
Yep.
might be winning most of your overlap battles against, Whitman and some of the other schools. So they're not as
Right.
prevalent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this is another question. This is outside of CC, but curious how you would answer this. So this is literally an actual conversation I had with the family this week. So Auburn is kind of pressuring them in order to sort of move forward, with, housing and certain things, you need to like submit your enrollment deposit with like the $300 and by the end of February.
Yeah.
And so I had a conversation. Do you encounter these kinds of conversations for other
We do.
schools?
We have you find your students who are being pressured by other colleges or students who come from sort of type A families who are like, okay, I'm getting my enrollment deposit in now because I want to make sure I get housing. And we're like, oh, sweet, darling child, you're not going to hear about housing from us until the end of May or early June because we have enough for everyone.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about it here. And there's not really like a hierarchy of housing for first year students at a place like CC. And I think that's true among most small liberal arts colleges. All the first year students are going to live in the same kind of dorm situation or housing situation. And even this year, we used to have one dorm that was available to first year students that was sort of, I guess you could just say it was the most recently renovated one, right? So it's slightly fancier among the mid-century, not that fancy residence halls. And next year, it's going to be only sophomores and juniors. They won't even allow first years to live in there. So it will be even more of an even playing field for students where they just have, like, they're either going to be in one kind of not that exciting mid-century dorm or the other kind of not that exciting mid-century dorm. So it's not a thing here, but we do have students who seem nervous, and we have to multiple times allay their fears and just be like, hey, don't worry about it. Once you've got the enrollment deposit in, you're fine. And you can do that now, or you can do that on April 30th. It doesn't matter to us, and it won't affect your course registration. It won't affect your housing. There's nothing that will be affected by the date of your enrollment.
Yeah, can you help families to understand that once you put your enrollment deposit in, you're not like obligated for like the first semester's tuition? Can you talk about that?
You mean if you decided to change and like withdraw over the summer,
Correct.
if you
Correct.
melted?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah,
'Cause
you won't.
sometimes people feel like, whoa, like I don't know if I need to commit to them yet, and
Oh, yeah.
that's a really big thing that I get in the counseling room.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
oh
I
yeah,
never would
yeah.
have thought of that.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
no.
sometimes, to be honest, I think sometimes people word it in a way where they might not mind that perception being out there because
Mm,
sometimes it's ways that people are trying to kind
hmm.
of take real stock of like where are we at with these students.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
so
so it's a little bit
interesting.
of a leverage thing that some schools do to
Yeah.
they don't
And then
mind
there's,
that in perception being out there. And it's not that they would say it if they were asked, but they're not always as clear as they could be in their communication.
yeah.
Like you're not obligated to come if you do that. I mean, some of them do that, but some don't.
Yeah. Wow. And then there's sort of the other end of the spectrum with Haverford, who's just like, don't worry about it. Just tell us that you're coming. You don't even have to put down a deposit because, we trust you. Yeah, you won't get an invoice until August or September, depending on the school, for your first semester tuition. So you don't have
Some
any
do
other.
July. There's some Julys out there.
Oh, okay.
So,
I guess
yeah,
if they're
yeah,
starting school in early
yeah,
August, maybe
yeah.
July.
Hmm.
But like if you're submitting your enrollment form and deposit, if there's a required deposit in April, that's all you have to pay for. Then you have the next 3 months to figure out how you're going to pay for your
Sure.
first semester, which it actually is nice to have that time, right? To figure out, okay, what do we have in the 529 that we can use? What are we going to try to cash flow? Are we going to do a payment plan, or are we going to pay it all at once?
Hmm.
Is grandpa helping? And if so, how
Hmm.
are we going to move that money over? All of those things kind of take some time to figure out. And somehow I always feel like I'm a little, I don't know, not prepared every time. I mean, I just barely got Callie's spring payment in like before the deadline. I always say I'm type C, right? I'm not type A or B. So yeah, it takes a little time to get those things sorted out and move money around for most families so that you can pay the bill on time, but you don't actually have to pay it for a few months.
Yeah, and just like Hillary said, I mean, you said it before I was going to say it, like, you kind of have tough skin on refusals. Like, we've seen it all. Don't worry about that. We're used to
Mm-hmm.
hearing it. The same is true for melting over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this happens all the time. I mean, there's lots of waitlist activity that happens in June and July. And you obviously need to commit by May 1st and put an enrollment deposit down somewhere. So it's not fun. I
Yeah.
remember being in the office and, director comes in, it ebbs and it flows. We just lost
Mm-hmm.
a few more. Like you don't
Yeah.
necessarily like it, but you're used to it, and it's just part of the process.
And it's part of the math that the
Yes.
VP does, right? Like
Yes.
we try to make sure that we have enough students in the class to account for some summer melt. It's different from year to year. Sometimes there's a lot. Sometimes there's a lot less. Sometimes it happens in June. Sometimes you've got Duke going to their waitlist in August or whenever it was that
Like
they did last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you lose a couple more who got off the waitlist at Duke. So it's a little different every year, but we do try to prepare for that.
Yeah, and I bring that up because usually when families ask me this question, they're asking it in an ethical context. They're like, they feel like they're like breaking a contract.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why we give you a deposit and why we don't give it back when you melt, right?
Sure,
I mean, that gives us an opportunity at least to try a little bit harder to hold on to, although the $1,000 deposit, if you're a full pay family, $1,000 compared to the cost of attendance is almost nothing. And so we don't obviously think that is going to hold you there. And sometimes at a place like CC, we'll refund your deposit if something has happened that, was unavoidable. It's not just like, my first choice called me off the wait list. But yeah, it is, I mean, it's sad for us, especially when it's a student who we were really excited about, but it's not like anything that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and just everybody read the fine print because there's a lot of models out there. Like Hillary talked about Haverford. There's schools with zero deposits. There's schools that say if you pull out by a certain date, you get the money back. They just still want you to, especially for locking in housing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a house, like differentiate between housing deposits versus enrollment deposits. So you really kind of need to read the fine print on that. But the bottom line is you're not obligated until, you'll get that, that notice and like first semester billing and there'll be deadlines and read that fine print really clearly.
And I would never want a student to go someplace for 4 years just because they felt obligated, right? Like if you've said yes to your offer of admission at Colorado College, but you're like, oh, I know it's not actually the best place for me. The best place is whatever, other school. And then you get off the wait list at that place, then you should go to that place. You shouldn't stick with it just out of a sense of obligation. I don't think very many students feel like they have to stick with it, but I would just like kind of encourage students that you need to do what's right for you.
Yeah. So last question, I'm kind of bouncing around off topics. I'm curious about your Midwest overlaps. I know for me, they're the smaller Ballard schools, right? It could be a Grinnell, or it could be Oberlin or Kenyon. I'm curious what, you see all the data on your side.
Yeah, we definitely a little bit with Grinnell, Oberlin, and Kenyon. Interestingly, we're in the Associated Colleges of the Midwest group consortium. And so we don't have overlap with all of the schools. Like I don't see a lot of students going to Lake Forest instead of CC. But there is some, and often it's for specific reasons. Like Kenyon, we'll have students who will go to the summer writing workshop at Kenyon, and Kenyon is really well known for their writing program. And we have a great writing program here, but it doesn't have sort of the prestige of a Kenyon. And so we'll sometimes lose students there because of that, or we'll lose students to Grinnell because they offer incredible merit aid. So there are definitely some schools that we lose out to, also because we travel with the Aid of the Best group. And so lots of times students will be applying to some or all of those colleges because they've gotten to sit and listen to presentations from all of them at one time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess last thing, what's your recommended timing?
I would,
somebody?
As soon as you are sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't feel rushed, but like if you care about being kind to the college, if you have appreciated the work that they've done in teaching you about the school, and if you think that they're nice people, like, and for sure that you're not going there, you've already submitted an enrollment form and deposit somewhere else, then I would say just go ahead and submit your form to the other schools that are on your list that that you're not going to. I know that sometimes can be a little bit hard too, because I'll hear from lots of students who are like, oh man, like I really loved CC, but I can't turn down this offer from this other place. So I know there's some sort of like emotional finality that's involved in submitting that form, but you make our jobs easier if you do it when you know that you're definitely not coming here, because then we can start to sort of prepare to pull kids from the wait list if we need to. And obviously, like you can understand how other students would appreciate us being able to go to the wait list sooner rather than waiting. So I think it's a nice thing to do sort of all the way around, to submit your no thank you sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we just say the second best thing to a yes is a quick no, but we don't want it to be a hasty no. We want it to be you're definitely not coming. Like you've really thought through that, and either you have committed somewhere else, or you're in 2 or 3 schools that for sure you'll pick over this other school.
Yep.
And one other thing to mention besides what Hillary said in terms of you may be able to go to the wait list sooner, the longer you have to go to the wait list, the harder it is to yield a student.
Yes.
It's really true for multiple reasons. For one, they're not feeling the love from you as much, right? Like you kind of put them on hold for a long time. But then that student's also now visiting other schools, and that spiking their interest in them. And so normally my experience is you have to normally really have just a much stronger brand, to overcome like coming in late like that.
Yep.
So you are going to make it harder for a school to yield going to the wait list if they go much later than if you knew 2 months earlier and you could have done it. So it's a huge courtesy to do if right now. And there are a lot of students right now that are in 6-8 schools. Right. And they kind of know within that 6-8, like there are a couple I'm just not going to go to.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think this is I think it's important timing. I'm going to fast track this and get this episode out there right away here.
I love it. Plus, I think the other benefit for students is that then you are out of their communications funnel. So you don't have to hear anymore about all the great things about the school that we're trying to use to yield you. Like, so for sort of your own sanity, right? It's nice to not be in that comms flow.
Yeah. Well, this was great, Hillary. This was really helpful. Hopefully, you took some tips away, listeners. Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you.
Friends, when Hillary talked about how she knows there's some emotional finality to letting a school know you're not coming, and it can be hard. Boy, that was the understatement of the day. I can't tell you how many times I talk to students who really wrestle with this. And they wrestle with it for good reasons. It's because they have a conscience and they're kind. And it's hard if somebody's been really kind to you to tell them you're not interested in coming there. Maybe they flew you in for a fly-in, or maybe you had an interview, or maybe a student just connected with you. But it really is the best thing you can do. And trust me, they've got thick skin. They're used to it. So don't procrastinate in this. Let the school go. Follow the methods that Hilary and I talked about. And like I said, of course, the best thing is a yes, but a quick no, not a hasty no, but a no when you know you're not going. It's a gift you'll be giving to your colleges. All right, let's transition. Hear the final part of my interview with Elliot Felix on his book, The Connected College.
And now this week's interview with a special guest.
All right, friends, we've reached the last part of my interview with Elliot Felix, author of the book, The Connected College. And in this part, Elliot tells us what sunsetting is, and he explains why colleges need to do more sunsetting of their programs. Elliot talks about what a student can do if they want to break into the work of design and strategy when it comes to working on college campuses. Elliot shares what he hasn't shared so far that he wants our listeners to know. Elliot gives us a more detailed overview of the content that he actually covers in his book. And friends, Elliot is headquartered in Minneapolis, and he loves the state. He loves Minnesota. In fact, during the interview, he was sporting a shirt. It said something like "I love Twin Cities" or something like that. So at the end, I just asked him, Elliot, what is it that people don't understand about Minneapolis, St. Paul? I mean, you're there. We're picking up a lot of things from the news. What is it that we're missing? And he gave us a straight answer. Listen and enjoy. I'm going to ask one more off here and then for list, and then I just have some more general questions for you, Elliot. So one of the things you said that caught my attention is connected colleges are skilled at sunsetting. Tell our listeners what sunsetting is. Talk about how so many times schools struggle with sunsetting and why you're an advocate of it.
Well, that's what we watched in your backyard, sunset. No, that's just it's a gentle way of saying stopping something.
Yeah.
And colleges and universities are kind of a little bit stuck in this tradition of adapting by adding. So if you look at the data, over the last 40 years, professional staff at universities has grown at about six times the pace of enrollment. So they've been adding staff 6 times faster than they've been adding students. In the last 20 years, colleges and universities have added space at twice the rate of enrollment, which, there's some of that is research, right? But it doesn't track with enrollment, but that's a lot of add. In the last 10 years, technology spend per head has about doubled at most, 4-year colleges. So we're adding, usually with good intentions. But at a certain point, it's not sustainable, right? You have too much technology, you have more space than you need, you have more staff than you can afford, more faculty than you can afford. And so I think colleges and universities really need to build this habit and this capability at saying no to things and saying, this major only has a few people in it. We all agree it's valuable, but there just isn't demand for it. And we can't keep losing money on it. Or this leadership development program we thought was going to be great, but nobody's signing up for it. So we need to reboot it or combine it with this other one across campus. And I think at connected colleges, they're as good at stopping stuff, right, at sunsetting stuff as they are at starting it, because that's how you make room for new. That's how you innovate. That's how you adapt. If all you're doing is adding, you're carrying with you kind of like up the mountain all that baggage of everything that's come before, And you got to set certain things down, right, to make that climb or to take on something new.
No, thanks for that. So I want to spend, most of the rest of our time, Elliot, talking a little bit about, I can see a student listening to this and thinking, this is kind of fascinating. How would I get into this kind of work? Like, what would you recommend a student do from a standpoint of either course of study or experiences that they can have that could make them appealing to someone like you as an employer making hires?
Well, I'll give you the strategy and the tactics for that. I think from a strategic perspective, one of the things I talk about in the book is a practice that's becoming increasingly popular in career centers, which is life design. And it's sort of applying the ideas of design thinking, right, where you're understanding people, you're creating things together, you're trying things out, to how students imagine their future. And then they think about the career that's part of that future. And then you think about everything you do as a prototype to get there, right? In the same way that no product goes from your sketch on a napkin to the shelf in a store, there's lots of iterations. There's lots of prototypes in between. Every experience in your life can be a prototype, right? Like you go shadow someone at their office and see what it's like. You do an informational interview. You do a 1-week externship. You do an internship. You do a project with that company. Those are all prototypes. You're prototyping your future. You're like testing out different futures. And so I would encourage that perspective in high school and through college and beyond as a way to figure things out. Alan Kay from MIT once said the best way to predict the future is to create it. You might have said invent it, but either way, you get the idea. And I think so. Prototyping as an approach is really great. And I think no matter what major you're in, what courses you're taking, the idea that you're looking at things as a prototype, like the project you take on, the paper you write, the people you meet, the workshop you attend, those are all ways for you to test out different futures and maybe even like meet your future self, right? Because maybe you're taking a stats class and you do that marketing project and you meet a market research and you're like, oh, this is how I use this. Like I could be like Mark in the future. So I think that's the big picture. And then I think in terms of the tactics, in terms of courses, I think courses that help you understand people, whether it's in through the social sciences, I think are absolutely critical, and they apply to everything. Whether you're going to go into computer science or whether you're going to develop policy, so courses that help you understand people. It could be anthropology, it could be sociology, it could be ethnography, but I think those are really critical. I think things that teach you the mindset and tool set of design, I think, are incredibly helpful, because then you can define problems, you can visualize solutions, whether it's drawing something, modeling something, prototyping something, sketching something, storyboarding something. And I would say the last thing is then having some specific content area, right? Like I bet your listeners have heard of the book Hacking College, which has this great premise that it's not so much your major, it's like it's your hidden, they call it the hidden intellectualism, right? It's that thing that drives you. So it's not that you want to study the environment. It's that there was, a chemical spill when you were growing up that, polluted the water. And so you're focused on water quality. And I think so uncovering that like thing you're passionate about, that problem you want to solve, that gives you a place to apply all those skills.
Elliot, this has been awesome. Is there anything we haven't shared that you'd like our listeners to know, either about your book or about what to look for when looking at a college?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share this. I mean, I wrote the book to help people, so hopefully it does. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, while the book is written with folks that work in higher education in mind, it's very useful for parents and consultants who work with families at understanding how colleges and universities are organized, what they offer, and how they operate. Each chapter is a core function in higher ed. So you have senior administration, you have assessment, you have enrollment, you have career, library, IT, academic programs, academic support, student affairs, advancement, board governance, and then like cross-cutting topics like AI and change management and the kind of experiential learning that we've been talking about. So if you sort of like want to understand how universities work and how they could work better, I think it's valuable from that perspective. Maybe not for everybody, but for folks who want to like better understand what a college offers, how it's organized, and how they operate, it's useful in that regard. And I hope it helps folks find places that are really all about setting up students for success. And I think, college is increasingly complicated, and knowing which institutions are setting you up for success is kind of how you get the most out of it.
No, that was a great overview. So Elliot's in Minneapolis right now. He's sporting a nice little hoodie here saying support the Twin Cities. Completely different question. Obviously, Minneapolis has been in the news a lot. What do people not see about Minneapolis who are a long ways away that you get as a resident and someone who's living there and working there and feet on the ground? What is it that the rest of the nation might be missing on?
With respect to what's happening now or in general?
Well, yeah, either what's happening now or the city. Anything come to mind?
I would say with respect to what's happening now with the Operation Metro Surge, I think what the media covers are the protests and the violence that protests are responding to. But I think what I'm really worried about is the kind of social and economic toll, because lots of restaurants are closed or their doors are locked and they're letting people in one at a time. Lots of kids aren't going to school. Lots of parents aren't going to work. Lots of people aren't going to the hospital to get the care they need because they're afraid. And it feels a little bit like it feels almost like the pandemic, where there's a whole swaths of people that are kind of on lockdown. And I think that's going to have a real long-term toll on our community and our country when we're not, under attack and on edge. I think it's an amazing place. And I've been here 6 years now, and it's an amazing place to raise a family. It's super safe. The outdoors are amazing. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and she walks up to the public library by herself and comes back with a backpack full of books. So it's a great place to live, and it's been a great place to live, and I'm excited to be here.
No, that's helpful. I was at 1:45 a.m. last night. I was on the phone with my niece, who's a resident, and she was saying a lot of the things you were saying. I mean, her and her husband, Carlos, who's of Mexican descent, so there's a lot of fear. They walk around with their passports everywhere, and they're kind of staying home right now. In fact, he finds out this week he put a request in after the first shooting and death. Said, I don't know if I can come in, and can I work from home? And they said, well, let's see how things go. And so he's going to find out this week, can he work from home? He does graphics and design. And so, yeah, so that sort of speaks to a lot of the things you said, right? Like the fear that you're not going to restaurants there. I said something on the podcast maybe a month or so ago about how there are a lot of colleges right in that area that are not flush with cash. You know, everybody thinks about Minnesota Twin Cities, but when you think of like the Augsburgs or the, you know, St. Catharines and St. Thomas and Concordias and Bethels and Hamlins, I mean, these are a lot of schools that, boy, they're watching their pennies to make it. I can't imagine what impact this is going to have on their resources and, you know, the impact of what they're able to deliver for services for students.
I was on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the board at MCAD, Minneapolis College of Art and Design.
Yes, there's another one.
And
MCAD.
It's amazing. It's the only, it's the only independent college of art and design in Minnesota, and just world-class programs and amazing people in an amazing place. That's 2 blocks from where everything happened on Saturday. And so, yeah, it's having a big impact. And I will say the one thing that's helping me, one thing I certainly learned as a parent is, I really try hard not to extrapolate, right? You know, something goes wrong and you can go into the doom spiral and say, you know, my kid just did X and what does this say about, you know, his or her future? But it's generally not that healthy thing to extrapolate one isolated incident into decades of future behavior. And so I find myself thinking about, okay, we have people that are murdering American citizens. What does that say about our country? And then it doesn't say good things, but I also find myself saying, you know what, like, let's not extrapolate that into defining who we are or who we will be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I heard something earlier today. I think there were like 3 deaths all last year, like at the hands of police, you know, so this perception that like Minneapolis is this hotbed of violence, just so kind of really the facts don't belie that. Right. So, you know, that's kind of an example of, I mean, there's lots of examples of what you could say that show that you got to be careful where you take it. But
most of the places where we're sending extra law enforcement are places where violent crime is at an all-time low.
Yeah. Yeah.
And immigrants are less likely to commit crime. They're more likely to start businesses. They're more likely to invest in their community. They're all the things we want in a community. So it doesn't make any sense to me to vilify them.
The one thing that I'm gleaning
this got pretty political pretty quickly.
Well, you know, the one thing that I'm potentially optimistic about is when you look historically, when there's been something very grave in our society, a lot of times you will correct it, right? Like you could look at the stock market crash in 1929 and you didn't even have FDIC and all the protections. You can look at changes that got made after World War I or World War II or even after Watergate. Or you could look at like savings and loans and the big crisis. And then, so that's the one thing, because I have to have some hope, otherwise I'll get discouraged, right? And so the one thing that I hold out hope on is that the country will realize, okay, this is not who we want to be. And then we'll make some corrections to, I can never say that things will never happen again, but to at least improve quality of life and learn from this. And I think overwhelmingly the surveys indicate that this is not what Americans want to see, happening in their cities. And so there's a lot of power in public sentiment. And I've got to believe that the power of that public sentiment will hopefully be turned into strengthening and making us be our better self. So stay strong, stay positive out there.
Thank you, sir. I hope for that too.
Yeah. If people want to get the book, why don't you mention that? And then you also do some podcasting a little bit. Why don't you share a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I think the best way for people to get in touch is to go to elliottfelix.com. And there you can find a link to the book. You can find a link to my podcast, which is also called The Connected College, which dives into these different topics from the book with different experts from institutions. So you kind of get a window into their world. We're about to release our 100th episode, and
Congrats!
Hey, thank you. Yeah, there's information on talks I've given, articles I've written, how to book me to speak to your group, and I'm always happy to get the word out to help students succeed.
And just so you know, friends, it's ELLIOT, so 2 L's, 1 T. I know that's the standard spelling of Elliot, but I'm sure it's not the only spelling you've seen. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen 1 L, 1 T. I've seen 2 of each. I've seen 1 L, 2 T's. But I have three names that can all work as first and last names. So Elliot, Douglas, Felix. I've learned.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah. I didn't know about the Douglas, but you're right, because Felix, Douglas, yeah, that's good stuff. So that's
People
a quiz for anybody.
whatever is useful, and I'm sure they can find me, and hopefully I can help them.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Again, it's been 3 years, and it's great to have you back. Keep doing what you're doing, Elliot.
Thanks. Same to you.
Okay, friends, let's transition to the final part of my interview with 2 students, Daniela and Summer. Daniela from suburban Philly, Summer from Chicago, and they're giving us an inside student perspective on the University of Pennsylvania, a.k.a. UPenn.
And now it's time for our College Spotlight of the Week.
All right, friends, we've reached the final part of my interview with Summer and Daniela, 2 students. One recently graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. That would be Daniela in med school right now, and Summer in her 3rd year. And in the final part, Summer and Daniela talk about imposter syndrome at Penn. Summer and Daniela talk about what are the hot topics on campus. Daniela and Summer discuss Penn Face. Summer and Danielle talk about a couple other programs, M&T and Huntsman, 2 dual degree programs that UPenn is known for that, quite honestly, are brutal to get in, but they're really creative, specialized programs. Summer and Danielle go on the hot seat, and they drop some more pearls of wisdom for all of us.
If you weren't interested in an urban campus, like if you wanted to be somewhere like sprawling with lots of trees, like my younger brother, I was like dying for him to come to Penn, and he visited and he goes,
he wasn't feeling it.
He wasn't feeling it. Mark worked with my brother too, and I gave him the tour of a lifetime. Okay. I pulled out all the stops. I literally planted my friends along Locust. That's how much I wanted my brother to come to Penn, and he didn't want to do it, but that's fine. He looks across campus. Like I took him to this pretty lookout spot, and he goes, "There's just not enough trees." And I said, "Okay, whatever."
I mean, like, I came from a city, so, like, I personally loved it. I wanted pretty architecture as well as, like, a city. I love taking the train around to go to Center City. I love walking to Trader Joe's. It's, like, a 20-minute walk. It's, like, my favorite activity is just to go into Center City. But I think, like, I was used to that because I grew up in an urban environment. Like, I took the L to school, like, took the subway. That's our, like, we call the L in Chicago. But I could see how, like, someone coming from, like, maybe a more rural environment who, like, or, like, if you want, like, a college town, I know a lot of my friends go to Big Ten schools in the Midwest. Definitely a little different from that.
Yeah, like, if you want a big sports experience, I don't know if Penn is necessarily the right fit for you. Like, if you want a social life that revolves around college sports, that's not us.
You're bringing up some really good points, because these are reasons why some of my students that don't like Penn will say, especially the urban, like people either feel very strongly about the city life, right? They can love it and they need it and they'll die without it. Summer was one of those people. Like, that was really important to her, and it's important to a lot of people. And then there's other people, Daniela, like, Diego, your brother, who were
my brother.
Yeah. And then I'm going to tell you, Daniela is tour guide extraordinary. If she does a tour and you don't like it, then it's just not for you.
It's really not for you.
Yeah. So that's one thing. So let me ask another thing, because you may or may not feel this way, but both of you two are very impressive. And I would feel as if maybe if somebody wasn't that self-confident, they could maybe get imposter syndrome. What do you think about that? You think that's fair?
If it makes you feel better, I got to Penn and I still have imposter syndrome. So like, I don't think there's any avoiding it. I think you just have to like, I know I talked to all of my friends about this, and it's so nice knowing that everyone you think is doing amazing and like great, like they all have this imposter syndrome. And that's something I love to tell like our freshmen incoming engineers, especially because you see all these people doing all these amazing things at Penn. And I really think it's up to you to like make the most of it. And like, you'll think everyone sounds impressive, but really everyone has this imposter syndrome. I think that's something you have to keep in mind. Just know that everyone kind of has that same experience. So if that makes you feel any better, absolutely. I still have it.
Yeah, I walked across the stage and I was still like, I can't even believe that I got in here. So it was like I spent 4 years, but not in a bad way. And like, you grow and you learn more about yourself, and you feel more confident and comfortable in the environment that you're in. But it is like a privilege to get a college education. And I felt very privileged to get my college education at Penn. And I think that like that, you know, like always sat very heavy with me, and I wanted to make sure that I was making the most of it, and like everything that my parents were sacrificing so that I could go to Penn. And like, but yeah, it was really hard. My first semester, I walked out of my first day of my math class and I said, I can't do this. I called my mom sobbing uncontrollably. I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. This is too hard. I didn't know what they were talking about at all. And like, really, you figure it out, and opportunities just sort of like come your way. Like, I know that sounds a little bit frustrating and hard to believe, but genuinely it does. Like, you just kind of find stuff and it gets sort of like in your vicinity, and then it's pretty easy once you're on a roll to like build stuff up and add stuff to your resume and get new experiences.
So this is definitely for you, Summer, and Danielle, you can reflect on it too, because you've only been off Penn's campus a year now, right? And it's
2 years.
Has it been 2 years?
2 years too long.
Wow, I cannot believe it's been 2 years. That is just insane. So the question is, what are the hot topics on campus? What are the things that students are talking about? What are the things there's buzz, whether it's things on campus or issues in the world that students get together and talk about? And Danielle, you can also, if you remember, when you were there, what some of them were.
Yeah, you might have to go first.
You might. Yeah, Summer has this look in her eyes like, I got her on that one.
I have no idea. I'm like personally like really uninvolved with chatter in campus. I'm like the worst person to ask here. I think if anything, it's like, oh, like, what are you doing this weekend? Like, I'm involved in like a very social group on campus. So we're always like, oh, like, what restaurant should we go try? I love Italian food. So we're always looking for like the best restaurant in Philadelphia. People are like, oh, like, what happy hour are you going to? Or like, oh, like, my sorority, like, oh, are you going to this mixer later? Or like, even the chatter is like, within engineering, like, oh, can you believe how hard that test was? Or like something like that. But that's like a really bad answer.
Philly just got its first couple Michelin stars. So that was news, I think, around the city. I would say Penn is a pretty political science heavy campus. So anytime that there's something political going on, just as in every major campus on the country, it's going to make its way to Penn. Students are going to have thoughts and opinions, as they should. You know, you're being taught to think for yourself and to like think and develop your own ideas and morals. So like students do that. And I'm sure, I don't have to tell your podcast listeners, I'm sure they've seen it on the news. But yeah, like I think just as every other college campus, you can expect for things that are happening in the greater world to manifest in sort of like the microcosm that is Penn. Sometimes in more productive ways than others, but nonetheless, like I think it's all part of a college experience, and it's what you choose to do with it and how involved you choose to be is totally up to you.
She gave such a better answer.
It's all good.
I'm like, what food are we eating? Like, what are you doing this weekend? And she was like a poised, like.
So I just had this flashback. It popped in my mind. This was either episode 2 or 3 or 4 of our podcast. I'm going back like over 8 years now, but it was called Penn Face. And it was about this student at Penn who jumped from like the 17th floor of a building and unfortunately ended her life. And everybody was absolutely shocked that that person would do that because they thought she had it all together. And the idea was there are a lot of people that look like they have it all together on the outside, and inside there's maybe a lot of turmoil going on. I don't know if this is a Penn question or really an every college question, but do you think there's anything to that?
I mean, I know Penn Face is definitely something we use a lot. So I know this is like definitely not a Penn specific question, but just Penn Face is what we happen to call it at Penn. It manifests itself like all over the country at any university you're going to be at. I think like it definitely is true that people love to like display this like outwards aura of like, I have it all together, I have everything perfectly. No one has anything perfectly. If you think someone has a perfect life, like that's a lie. Everyone's figuring themselves out. College is such like a developmental time where you're growing and changing, and that sounds cheesy, but I mean, everyone's really figuring themselves out. And as I've mentioned, like
100%.
Penn is a hard environment. You're trying to balance your social life. Like, I want to be such a social person. I want to have good grades. And sometimes you really can't have it all. And you have to like really motivate yourself and make these decisions that kind of shape who you want to be on this campus. So yeah, it's true, but it's everywhere. So.
Yeah. But I will also say that, like, after that happened, I remember, I think I was like a junior in high school thinking about applying to colleges when that happened. And once I got to Penn, like, we have something called Dear Penn Freshman, which is a like book of letters that seniors wrote that go, do they still do it, Summer?
Maybe. Again, I don't know.
Well, there's
It's
like
possible.
the Penn, and it's like essentially, I think they were doing it up until last year, definitely, but like essentially seniors like write letters to their freshman selves. And I found that to be so helpful because like people were very honest about like how much they struggled at first and like, or how they were fine. And then their girlfriend broke up with them and they were down bad. Like things happen. It's college. And so I think that like really Penn has now become a lot more like beautiful, wonderful people like Summer who will come on a podcast and tell you that they really struggled their freshman year. You know, like she never tells a freshman girl in engineering that her life is perfect and that she's doing amazing in all her classes and her social life is gorgeous and she has such long, beautiful hair. Like, of course, she's like honest and transparent about how her experience has had ups and downs. I think that's more commonplace now at Penn, but also just like globally as we have more conversations about mental health and student wellness. I certainly was never someone who was like, yeah, no, you should really be getting it together because I have my stuff all together. I was never that person, and I never projected that to anyone younger than me or like surrounding me. So I think that has changed for the better.
Are there any programs, majors at Penn that you just think are exceptional that maybe fly under the radar and not everybody knows, but like this department is just incredible. The professors there. Any you want to shout out?
The dual degree programs.
Talk to our listeners about them.
Do you want to talk about M&T, Summer? You probably know more.
Yeah, so I was really unaware of how many dual degree programs we have, but as I said, Penn is so interdisciplinary, so they're always looking for a chance to like combine different degrees and different majors. So M&T is management and technology. So you'll have an engineering major, and then you'll also get a dual degree in Wharton. So you can do this uncoordinated on your own. I don't know many people who choose to do that. It's a lot. But when you do it through the program, they find ways to like double count classes. You have specialized like mentors, and there's like special exceptions to like certain like senior projects you'll do. But you can kind of really pick and choose. I think a lot of these people want to go into like project management within engineering, or they want like a more tech focused. A lot of people will do like computer science or AI, especially after we introduce that major, along with Wharton, because I mean Wharton has such an amazing network. We also have Huntsman. I don't know if you want to talk about that. You probably know more.
Yeah, why don't you talk about Huntsman, Daniela?
Huntsman is a fantastic program. Huntsman is a dual degree in Wharton and in international business and like humanities. So you have a language concentration in Huntsman, and then you mandatorily have to study abroad in the place where that language is. So, for example, one of my very closest friends, his language, his target language that they call it, was Arabic, and he spent a semester in Lebanon, and it was like totally life changing for him. But I just think the program itself is really wonderful. Being in one of those dual degree programs gives you a smaller community and like additional opportunities for different like lecture series to get to know different people. Like, again, just another way to like find a niche. There's a healthcare management one, which is like Wharton and Bio, I think.
Yes,
Um,
LSM.
LSM, yes.
I have
And
a lot of
LSM,
friends in that.
I wish I would have applied to LSM. I don't think I knew necessarily about, or actually, I think I did know about it. And at the time, I just didn't think that I would be interested in something like that. But like now looking back, I think it would have been like great skills to have. So if you're at all interested in a dual degree, you should explore them. And I don't know, you can ask Mark how it works, like in terms of like, but I think you can just apply to a school and then just tack on the dual degree. And even if you don't get into the dual degree, you can still get into the school, is my
Yeah, those
understanding.
programs are more competitive than getting into Penn in general.
Yes.
They're all like super,
Yeah,
super
that's
competitive.
true.
Yeah, yeah. So
But they're
if
great.
they are fantastic. So we're about to transition to the lightning round. And is there anything we haven't said about Penn that you feel like, oh, the listeners need to know this?
I think I would just add on that freshman year at Penn is such an amazing experience. I know that most people that I've talked to, of course, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have your ups and downs. Like, I definitely have called my mom crying about my classes, so I'm not going to lie about that. But I think just the transition into college, Penn makes it so easy to find your people, all these club fairs. I think Penn especially, like the upperclassmen are so welcoming. It's like, it feels like one big Penn community instead of like really like you're on your own with your freshman class, trying to battle the world almost. I had such an amazing like freshman year dorm experience. I lived in the quad. It was super social. Everyone in my hall were like, we were all friends. And I don't know, it was amazing. My RA was great. So they really make it such a fun experience. And I think I was scared that Penn would be all academics, and it was really so much more than that, and like everything I could have imagined and more. So thank you, Mark, for introducing me to the school, because I really wouldn't be here. And I mean, I sound crazy. I keep raving about Penn, but I really do love it. It's so hard to say like something bad about Penn. It's just like my favorite place. I'm so sad that I'm almost done with my time there, but
well, you're getting a master's. Does that extend you one more year there?
Yeah, I'm gonna extend one extra semester. You can do an extra year. Some people do it in 4. I personally don't want to do that, just for course load purposes. So yeah, I'll have an extra semester here. That's still not even enough for me. But...
Did you see yourself staying in Philly, or are you looking at going back to Chicago?
For what?
Oh, for work afterwards. Could you see yourself?
I have no idea. I really have loved the East Coast since I got here. I think I'm kind of open to wherever like work takes me.
Sure.
I mean, I've loved East Coast, but also I'm a Midwest girl at heart. So it's kind of hard.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to start out with a softball one. What is your favorite thing to do in Philadelphia off of Penn's campus?
I would say going to Rittenhouse Square. That is like a neighborhood that's right across the river outside of University City, which is our like neighborhood that we call like Penn's campus, also home to Drexel University. That's something to mention. So there's a lot of college kids in that area. But if you walk about like 20 minutes across the river, you reach Rittenhouse, and it's this beautiful area, lots of shops, food. It's super exciting, also super accessible to get to, like on a weekend if you just want to break from campus. It's probably my favorite thing.
Daniela?
I like going to Eagles games or just Philly sports games in general.
So
you can find really
Daniela,
cheap tickets if you wait until the last minute, which is
I
what my
don't
friends and I
remember
would do.
you being this really big sports fan in high school.
All these years in Philly, I really drank the Kool-Aid. What can I say?
Philly loves their sports, I will say
Philly
that.
loves their sports.
The Eagles, when they won the Super Bowl, wow. Center City went crazy. We went down there. All my friends.
Amazing.
It's awesome.
All right, so now I'm going to get a little deeper. What do you wish your 18-year-old self knew?
I wish my 18-year-old self knew that it would all work out in the end. I think I was so worried. I'm such an anxious person. I was so worried about how college was going to shake out, where I was going to end up. Will I make friends? Will I like my major? And it really does all work out. And this really isn't Penn specific, but I think you just have to keep an open mind during the college application process, because really, like, you can find your place at any school. And I think, like, everything happens for a reason. And I am so grateful that I ended up at Penn. But I think no matter where you end up, like, you're going to have a great experience. So don't let that be, like, a place for anxiety for you, because it really does all work out.
Anything you want to add, Daniela?
I totally echo that. And I also just wish that my 18-year-old self knew that, like, it's okay to, like, also say no to things. Like, you don't have to do everything or go to everything that everyone tells you to. Some things are going to work really well for you and some things aren't. Like, take everything with a grain of salt. Just because somebody tells you that a class is really hard doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be really hard for you. I think I got really wrapped up in that at least my first year. And I think I could have saved myself a little bit of stress if I just focused on me.
All right, we're going to close with some of your answers could have already answered this, but you have to think about a new answer. So what would be your advice for a high school student out there listening, for a parent out there listening, for a college counselor out there listening? You could pick any one of those groups and speak to them. What would be your advice?
I think that what was most helpful to me when applying to college as a student, and also just like most helpful to my community of people that I had around me, is like really thinking about like what was my story? Like what did I want to talk about? What was authentic to me? I actually ended up doing most of the things that I talked about wanting to do in my Penn supplements and in my college application. Like I did those things. I followed through on them, and it's because it was genuine to like what my interests were and what I was passionate about. And so I think like being honest with yourself, honest with your child, like honest with whoever you're working with, is so important in the college application process. And like not everywhere is a fit for everyone. And like that's okay. You know, you have to do what's best for you and like what you know will be pay off for you in the long run.
Yeah, I think that was so well spoken. I really do believe in taking time during the college application process to think about what you really want and what you want from a college experience, because we are in a country that has so many diverse opportunities for college. You have liberal arts schools, you have more bigger state schools, there's different opportunities. Even if you don't know what you want to study, like take that into consideration as well. I mean, just think about what you want your college experience to look like, and there's so many different schools that can meet that for you. And I think really doing your research on schools before you get there. I think trying to figure out anything you can, speaking to current students. I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're already like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
I think just doing your research, and it makes the process so much easier once you know that the school is like a good fit for you. So.
Basically, just listen to Mark. Do what Mark says, and you'll be fine. That's what we did, and it worked out for us.
You're putting pressure on me. No,
sorry, Mark.
You guys, we're really proud of you. I'm excited about your futures. I know you guys are going to crush it out there in the world, and just want to thank you for giving, an hour, 15 minutes of your time on a Saturday here on your Christmas break. You get a little break, and just keep doing what you're doing. I'm really proud of both of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
On Monday's episode, I'm going to continue along this theme that I've been doing. The last couple of weeks, I talked about external or outside scholarships. I'm not talking about that this week, but I'm going to talk about a way in which you can save thousands and thousands of dollars for college that a lot of people don't put a lot of thought into. I mean, you might be able to save 1/4 or more of your whole entire bill for the course of your 4 years. So I'm doing a little bit of a cliffhanger. You got to tune in on Monday to see what I'm talking about. And then we'll have the final part of my interview with Elena Hicks. She's breaking down SMU. I'll go over 3 more impressions I have. She'll give her feedback, and then we'll bounce around and cover a couple other topics about SMU. And friends, I want to give you a tip for you students who are in your classes, on your sports teams, doing internships, and certainly when you get into the professional and job market. And it's simply this: be the most positive person in the room. Be the most positive person in the room. You could be an average employee, but if you're the most positive person in the room, you're going to jump to the upper echelon in the eyes of your boss and your direct supervisor. I know when I hire people, it's one of the most important things that I look for is positive attitude. I close out some words of wisdom from Walt Whitman, and he simply said this: keep your face always toward the sunshine, and shadows will fall behind you. Keep your face always toward the sunshine, and shadows will fall behind you. See you on Monday, friends. And that's our show. A big thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in this week. If you find this podcast helpful, please follow us and you will get every single episode as soon as they are released. If you want to support our podcast, you can click the share button and send it to your friends and acquaintances. You can say positive things about your college-bound kid on your social media feed. And you can help us stay commercial-free and pay our staff by donating on the yourcollegeboundkid website. You can write a review for us on Apple or Spotify. And if you have a question or a recommendation, just go to speakpipe.com/YCBK, hit the orange button, and speak. We will do our best to get your question in your own voice on an upcoming episode. I am the producer of the podcast, and I live in Metro Atlanta. We have a fantastic team that has over 200 years of admissions and counseling experience. Shout out to our co-hosts, Dr. Lisa Ruff in North Carolina, Susan Tree in Pennsylvania, Vince Garcia in California, Julia Escabel in Massachusetts, Linda Depker in Missouri, Andy Strickler, the Chief Enrollment Officer at Connecticut College, New London, Connecticut, Hillary Dickman, an Admission Officer at Colorado College in Colorado Springs, and our International Admissions Expert, Kevin Newton in Dallas, Texas. Our sensational sound engineer is Nemanja Matvich. Our amazing music is from Victor Allen Weeks. Marketing designs from Kimberly Bloss. Our reliable webmaster is Stalionis Dimitru. Website updates are done by Joyce Stucker. Our image editor is Vlad Honchar. If you want to have a coaching session with me, just text me at 404-664-4340. If you want to reach someone else on our team, all of our bios with contact info can be found at yourcollegeboundkid.com under the About YCBK tab. If you want to get our free monthly YCBK newsletter, YCBK Plus, it is also under the About YCBK tab. If you want to see our recommended books and websites, they are on our website under the Resources tab. While you're on our website, check out our hundreds of interviews in their entirety. Check out our college spotlights, our blog, and our upcoming events. We think of you as our listening family, and we look forward to meeting with you every single Monday and every single Thursday.